Dun 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 dun. Little pig, let me in.
Hey, howdy, hey, people of the internet, Wolfman 47-it, and I need to kill some people. Right, enough about that. Walking Dead, it's known to have so many different villains aside from the main Walker villains, and all that. Most of them have a thing in common where they like to basically do all sorts of criminal activities, killing everybody that gets in their way, and just being a major threat, killing everybody and anybody, and just not really being as human as they once were before everything happened. And that's where Negan is kind of different. You see, lots of Walking Dead villains all have this thing in common where they will do anything and everything to get what they want. They'll commit adultery, they'll kill people, they'll kill walkers, they'll do things that don't quite sound human to me. But Negan is probably the most human out of all the villains, and a fair villain, I should say, as well. So when he's first introduced, he's made out to be this godlike character that people worship, and makes out that everybody is Negan, because things and all that. And something he does with each community that in his sort of big major plan for the world is that instead of killing everybody, he'll only kill one person to ensure that the rest of that particular community falls in line and does what he sets out to do. Usually going for the strongest of people, or the one that kind of stands up to him and all that. Hence why in the TV show it's Abraham that gets killed off to begin with. And then because of because of Daryl's interference, Glenn gets killed off as well. But at that point in the comic book series, Abraham's already dead, and it's just Glenn that's killed off. Whereas in the TV show, they're both killed off at the same time. But what's interesting about that scene is that in the comics, the person that Negan picks in the comics is completely random. Whereas in the show, it's heavily implied that he went for Abraham because he was the only one that actually looked directly in his face and was ready to accept his fate and all that stuff. But anyway.
Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Catch the tiger by his toe. If he hollers, let him go. My mother told me to pick the very best one. And you are it. Anybody moves, anybody says anything, cut the boy's other eye out and feed it to his father, and then we'll start. You can breathe, you can blink, you can cry. Hell, you're all gonna be doing that. Taking it like a champ.
His fate and all that stuff. But anyway, so he kills off one person to ensure the others fall in line, and basically it says, right, I'm gonna on occasion I'll just come to your community and take half of your stuff, and that'll be the end of it. And that's basically his way of saying that he wants to be fair and allow people to keep half of their stuff, but also allowing his people to have their their stuff in order to survive, and also to allow the Saviours to deal with walkers in between communities. So that's pretty much where he goes with that. But not every community does follow that sort of thing. So Alexandra follows it, the Hilltop follow it, but Oceanside don't want anything to do with the Saviours, and actually try and keep themselves out the whole thing altogether by keeping themselves by going into hiding. Because at one point the Saviours went to them and killed all the men. So yeah. Whereas the kingdom has this deal where they will happily do the Saviour's bidding, but on the condition that they do not ever step foot in the kingdom. Which, until the Saviour War occurs, they honour that deal. And that's all basically Negan just trying to keep everybody surviving and everything. And he's actually the most human out of all the Walking Dead villains because he doesn't like people committing adultery. He thinks children are the future, and anytime he takes a prisoner in, he will happily treat the women with the respect that they deserve, but will happily brutalise any sort of man that sort of breaks any kind of values and principles that he has, including adultery. So that's that. Now I should explain the baseball bat. So this baseball bat. So he has a baseball bat called Lucille. Lucille was his lover long before the apocalypse happened, and as such, she plays a major part. She played a major part in his life, but ultimately died at one point or another, which made Negan the person he was. And then after the Saviour War comes to an end, which ended kind of the way I would have wanted it to end, in that no one actually kills anybody else. It's just the Saviours have the chance to surrender and either be part of the communities or be jailed up or just thrown into some disarray of some description. Whereas Negan is the only one that actually does suffer, in that he is treated to his wounds, but then spends the rest of his days locked in a cell. Well, I say the rest of his days until he does some good deeds for the community. So, in the 5 or so year gap between Rick leaving and in a sort of 5-year gap in both the comic series and the TV series, he does eventually get allowed to leave the cell because the community needs his help in this sort of blizzard, the snow blizzard that happens, and he's let out for good behaviour. Now, in this TV series, Maggie in particular has strong reservations about him being released and let loose because he was the one that killed her lover. But as time does eventually go on, the two do become have an uneasy alliance where Maggie wants to kill him, but at the same time Negan feels useful and wants to be useful to her, and eventually does sort of show remorse for his actions, which ultimately allowed Maggie to sort of understand things from his point of view, but at the same time she can't let go of what he did, but will do her very best to try and do that. Now, at the time of doing this vlog, I've not seen Dead City. That spin-off has yet to arrive here in the UK. I know Sky / Now TV are kind of working on bringing these new Walking Dead shows here. I know they've already succeeded with The Ones Who Live, which is the miniseries that kind of concludes Rick Grimes' story. And I know the Daryl Dixon series is either here or will be coming here at some point, so hopefully Dead City will appear as well. But yeah, overall I think Negan, out of all the Walking Dead villains, and I'm not just talking about the main show, I'm talking about everything to do with Walking Dead, out of all the villains, he is the most human, he is the fairest, and he will definitely go down as being the one that I do have the greatest deal of respect for, because of how human he is, how fair he is, and how he just shows signs of remorse and hatred towards the things that he's very much against, including adultery. So yeah, and he even treats Carl with respect when he goes to the Savior compound. I forget the name of it. So yeah, so Negan in a nutshell, one of the best villains ever, because he's complicated, complex, fair, and knows when he steps out of line and apologizes when he steps out of line. Knows how to deal with people who commit crimes that he's against, even though sometimes said crimes can be a bit yeah, well, you know, not sure if you'd want to do anything about it or not, but yeah. And he has his reasons for doing what he does, whether it's to do it in honor of his wife or some other reason. He just does it. And I did hear that when the casting call was called out for Negan, the guy, I forget the guy's name, but the guy that Negan was originally based on actually auditioned for the role, but it ultimately went to Jeffrey Dean Morgan, who at the time was probably only known for being the comedian in Zack Snyder's version of Watchmen. But nowadays people know him as Negan and all these other different sort of roles he does. And I'll be honest, I think Negan's probably the only villain role he's ever had, because anything else I've seen him in, he's either playing a good guy or playing a good guy in a supporting role, or and I think the only other time he's actually kind of sort of played a villain is in The Boys, where he is in the mind of Billy Butcher, just trying to sort of manipulate him into doing things. So yeah, so in a nutshell, Negan is Negan. Whether we're Negan or not, that's up to you, but he is my favourite Walking Dead villain, and I just like how fair he is, how he doesn't like people doing certain things, and on all this other stuff. But I do kind of feel that maybe the sort of thing with the baseball bat hitting the people on the head is kind of a bit of overkill, but that is exactly what happened in the comics, so you can't really argue with it. That is exactly how it happened in the comics. So yeah, and I know the producers and the people behind the Walking Dead show wanted to be as accurate to the comics as possible, even though they were following it just loosely. So yeah. Alright, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you want to see more of my videos. I upload videos at the times of 9 AM, 1 PM, 3 PM and 9 PM BST/GMT most days. Usually vlogs where I'm talking about things pop culture like I am today, and also do hauls and talk about life. I also do gameplay videos without commentary and gameplay videos with commentary, which are otherwise known as Let's Plays. And I also do lots of different random shorts as well, usually to celebrate people's birthdays or anniversaries or whatever, but do other things as well. And if you like the video, hit the like button. If you want to share with your pals, hit the share button. And if you want to leave a comment, well, you should know where the comment thing is by now. See you in the next one. Peace to you all. And whether you're Negan or not, remember to always be fair to your people. Do not commit adultery, do not do other things. If you feel you're falling out of line, apologise, and if you need to name something after someone you once loved, then do it, because it might be just a way to honour them, but maybe don't smack people in the heads with a baseball bat like this, because yeah, it's just not worth it. So yeah, right. Doodles.
Oh my goodness.